There once lived a boy named Arjun who grew up in a small town where everyone around him seemed to live by the same set of rules, the same paths, and the same expectations. In his neighborhood, it was almost written in stone that if you were a boy, you had to become either a doctor or an engineer. And if you were a girl, you had to either become a teacher or marry into a wealthy family. Dreams were not treated as dreams, but as assignments handed down by elders, and anyone who dared to question them was immediately silenced with words like, "This is how life works," or "Don't bring shame to the family." Arjun, even as a child, felt something heavy in his heart every time people told him what he should become. He loved drawing, writing stories, and imagining worlds that didn't exist. But every time he tried to show this side of himself, someone would say, "That won't pay your bills," or "Art is just a hobby, focus on real life." Slowly he began to bury his passion and follow the steps laid out for him, convincing himself that maybe everyone else knew better, and maybe his happiness was not as important as fitting in with the crowd. As the years passed, Arjun's life became a mirror of thousands of others in his town. He studied hard, not because he wanted to, but because he was told that if he didn't, he would fail, not just his exams, but also his family's expectations. He went to coaching classes, solved endless math problems, and memorized formulas he would never use, but deep inside, he was suffocating. He watched his friends also drown in the same sea of pressure, each one competing, comparing, and constantly looking at who was ahead in the rat race. There was no joy in the pursuit, only fear of falling behind. Sometimes at night, Arjun would sit by his window and sketch quietly, almost guiltily, as if doing something forbidden. Those sketches gave him peace, but he tore them up every morning, before anyone could see them, because the thought of someone laughing at his childish dreams made him feel weak. He didn't realize then that tearing up his drawings meant tearing up a part of his soul each time. Eventually, Arjun got into a prestigious engineering college, and everyone celebrated as though he had already achieved greatness. Relatives called, neighbors congratulated his parents, and he was showered with praises for making the family proud. But no one asked him if he was proud of himself. College life was even tougher. The subjects felt alien to him, the classrooms felt like prisons, and every exam felt like a mountain crushing his spirit. He looked around and saw students who genuinely loved building machines or coding programs, but he wasn't one of them. He only did it to survive. In those moments, he realized that living someone else's dream meant constantly walking on a road where you don't belong, where every step feels heavier than the last. The nights grew longer, the stress deeper, and the smiles rarer. Arjun began to wonder if this was what life was supposed to be, a continuous effort to become something he never wanted to become. One evening, while returning from college, Arjun saw a group of children drawing with chalk on the road. Their drawings were messy, uneven, and far from perfect, but their laughter was pure, their joy unshakable. Something inside him stirred. He sat with them and drew a small bird with open wings, and the children clapped as though he had created a masterpiece. That one moment hit him harder than years of forced education. He realized that when he sketched, time stood still, and his heart felt free. For the first time in years, he felt truly alive. That night he took out his old sketchbook and began to draw again, this time not tearing the pages but keeping them safe. Slowly, he allowed himself to dream again, though quietly, because he still feared judgment. But he also knew that the more he hid from himself, the more he was losing pieces of who he truly was meant to be. It wasn't long before he faced the inevitable confrontation. His father found the sketchbook and looked at him with disappointment. "Is this what you've been doing instead of studying?" he asked, his voice heavy with anger. Arjun tried to explain, tried to say that drawing gave him peace, that it was what made him happy. But his father's words pierced him like knives. Happiness doesn't build careers, sacrifices do. Stop chasing foolish dreams. That night, Arjun cried alone, not because of his father's words, but because he realized how deeply society had convinced everyone that dreams outside the norm were worthless. He asked himself, why should I kill my passion just to fit into a box someone else built? Why should I sacrifice my identity to live a life that doesn't belong to me? These questions haunted him, but they also sparked a fire inside him. The next few months became a battle between two worlds. On one side was the life chosen for him, exams, grades, and future job security. On the other side was the life he longed for, art, creativity, and freedom. Every day he had to choose which side to feed. He continued attending classes, but in every free moment he drew, painted, and created. He started posting his art anonymously online, and to his surprise, people loved it. Comments poured in, praising his style, encouraging him to keep going. For the first time, he realized that what he had considered useless could actually touch lives. The validation from strangers gave him courage that he never got from those closest to him. He began to see that his talent was not a weakness, but a gift, and if nurtured, it could grow into something powerful. Eventually, Arjun made a bold decision. He decided to stop chasing the dream others had planted in him. He didn't drop out of college immediately, but he stopped giving it his entire soul. Instead, he poured his heart into his art. He began attending workshops, meeting artists, and learning from mentors. He understood that daring to be different came with criticism, but it also came with freedom. Friends laughed at him, relatives called him reckless, but he kept going. Each stroke of his brush was a rebellion, each sketch a declaration that he was no longer afraid to live for himself. And with every piece of art, he felt stronger, more complete, and more alive than ever. The turning point came when one of his artworks was selected for an exhibition. Standing in that gallery, surrounded by people admiring his work, he felt a sense of pride that no exam result had ever given him. His parents were there too, reluctant at first, but as they saw strangers praising their son's talent, something in their hearts softened. They didn't fully understand his path, but they began to see that happiness and success don't always wear the same uniform. That night, Arjun's father put his hand on his shoulder and said quietly, "If this is what makes you happy, don't let it go." Those words were enough to confirm what Arjun already knew. Living your own dream is worth every struggle, every doubt, and every fight. Years later, Arjun became a successful illustrator and storyteller. He built a career out of what once was called a foolish hobby. He traveled, met people who valued creativity, and inspired others to follow their passions. Looking back, he realized that the hardest part wasn't the struggle to succeed, but the struggle to accept himself in a world that constantly wanted to change him. He understood that chasing someone else's dream would have given him a life of survival, but daring to be different gave him a life of meaning. The boy who once tore his drawings now had them displayed in galleries across cities, a living testimony that no dream is too small when fueled by courage. Arjun's story is not just about art, but about the universal truth that every person carries a unique spark within them. Society will always try to mold you, family may try to steer you, and the world may laugh at you, but in the end, the only dream worth chasing is the one that sets your soul on fire. If you dare to be different, you may face loneliness, criticism, and countless obstacles, but you will also taste a kind of freedom that conformity can never provide. Remember, living someone else's dream may keep you safe, but it will never make you whole. Your dreams are yours for a reason, and the world needs them exactly as they are. So stop chasing others' dreams and dare to be different, because only then will you discover who you truly are meant to be. Arjun had already transformed his own life, but he slowly began to realize that his journey was not meant to stay confined within himself. His story was not just his. It carried the weight of many others who were silently enduring the same struggle. In his city, there were countless young men and women who had been conditioned to follow the path laid out by their families and society, without ever questioning whether that path truly belonged to them. Whenever people asked him what made him so courageous to take such a bold step, his answer was always disarmingly simple. "One day, I just chose to listen to the voice within me, and from that day forward, my life became mine again." His words carried a quiet power that stirred something in those who heard them. Before long, college students, neighbors, even distant relatives began reaching out to him. They would sit with him, confessing their deepest frustrations and hidden dreams, dreams of painting, singing, playing cricket. writing books, starting businesses. But all of them carried the heavy weight of expectations that chained them to careers they didn't love. And every time Arjun would meet their anxious eyes with calm determination and say, "If you silence your own voice, the world will never know who you really are." The world doesn't need copies of someone else. It needs the original version of you. The people who came to Arjun expected him to give them some secret formula for success, but he never did. Instead, he asked them one question that always left them silent. If today was your last day on earth, would you still choose to live the life you're living now? That question hit harder than any lecture or motivational speech. Many of them broke down, realizing they had never even thought about life in that way. They were too busy chasing grades, promotions, and approval to notice that their own dreams had been buried under the dust of obligations. Arjun told them that fear was the greatest thief, not lack of money, not lack of opportunity, but fear of being judged, fear of failing, fear of disappointing others. He reminded them that even failure was better than regret, because failure taught lessons, but regret left scars that time could never heal. Slowly, word spread about the boy who dared to live differently, and people began to see him as a symbol of courage. Arjun wasn't trying to be a leader, but by daring to walk his own road, he showed others that they could too. His story became living proof that once you stop chasing others' dreams, life opens doors you never imagined could exist.